Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to be looking at Wasteland number 10 through 12, continuing our scholarly examination of this excellent late 80s anthology from DC Comics. Once again, all the writings from Del Close and John Ostrander, and the artist lineup is starting to change a little. It was pretty much just the same four artists for a long time, but now they're mixing stuff up a little. So let's take a look at these. This first one has a cover by Don Simpson. This is number 10. I love this cover. It's I imagine some therapist has this young girl to draw her family, and it's a fucking horror show. She obviously comes from a very bad home, and little Sally here depicts it, and it's more horrible than anything that Tales from the Crypt ever came up with. So here we have a new contributor. The first story is drawn by Tim Truman of Grimjack and Scout fame. And this one is written solo by John Ostrander. So this is actually an African folk tale. And the tale is how the unborn child avenged its mother. This one's pretty fucking creepy. So it's a time of famine in Africa. A man and his wife are heading towards her mother's house, his mother-in-law, hoping to be fed. They came across a tree with all this fruit on top. And he tells her, she says, "Wife, climb up that tree and shake down the fruit." And she's like, "What? I'm pregnant." So the husband says, "Fine, then don't climb the tree, but eat none of my fruit." This guy seems like a total dick. So he shakes the fruit off. The wife is collecting it for him, but he's all like, "Don't eat the fruit. I shook it down. It's mine." And she's saying, "I haven't eaten any. I was only picking it up for you," which she was. And he kills his own wife. He says, "You lie," and he throws a spear at her. And it goes right through her belly. I guess everyone's so hungry, it's driving them a little mad. So he buries the wife's body and continues on his journey to his mother-in-law. And when he goes to sleep, because it's a long journey, he hears this voice, "Father, where are you? Father, where is my mother, dead in the grave? I am your child, the unborn, undying." And look how scary this fucking thing is. Oh my God. Someone's got to adapt this to film, because that's such a horrifying image to me. This little undead baby. So the father runs, and everywhere he goes, the baby chases him, saying the same thing. "Father, where are you?" So he realizes it's either him or the baby. He's going to have to kill that baby. So he lies in wait for him. And he spears the baby and then crushes it with a rock. So he continues on his way, gets to the mother-in-law's house. She asks, "Where's my daughter?" He says, "I left her at home. Her time is near to give birth." Then the baby shows up again. "Father, where are you? Where is my mother? Dead in the grave." Ah, shit. I swear to God, I got scared just looking at that panel. "Wait for me, Father, I come." And the mother-in-law realizes that he's lying. And all of her family stab him and kill him. The child was cleansed and given to one of the son's wives to raise. The man's body was cast into the road. So I guess that baby wasn't somehow really alive. I don't know. I wouldn't want a zombie baby. That seems silly. So this next story, The Dreamer in the Darkness, drawn by William Mesner Loebs. And this is co-written by, well, it's really written by Del Close, and John Ostrander just kind of helped him transcribe it into comic form. So it's 1936, and we see H.P. Lovecraft with his wife. And he's basically abandoning her. He's basically saying, you know, I'm back in Providence, my hometown. And if we were married, we would have to move to Chicago, and I don't want to. It's very cold. She's pleading with him. She's like, Howard, please. He calls her Mrs. Green. She's like, I'm your wife. And he's just being totally cold and harsh. He's not trying to soft soap it, the truth. So she leaves. And I guess H.P. Lovecraft lived with his aunt. So she's like, you have a friend, Howard. And it's Frank Belknap Long. One of his associates and friends, also wrote for like weird tales in that like H.P. Lovecraft style. And he admits to Long that he's got syphilis. So he could never, you know, be a father. He wouldn't want to pass it down to his child. And some of these panels, man, William Mr. Loebs is just so primitive. So apparently all of his stories about Cthulhu, they were really about syphilis. That's the real monster in his life. But he has good news. Before he can go mad and die from syphilis, H.P. Lovecraft got cancer at a young age. So the cancer is going to kill him before the syphilis. So he's overjoyed. And then we see a little while later, H.P. Lovecraft's on his deathbed. And he's in his beloved Providence, so he's happy. And he passes away from cancer. Very odd little vignette. Here's Life's Illusion, written by the two writers, and this one's drawn and colored by David Lloyd. This one's kind of a silly one. So you see this guy heading home after a hard day at work. He's all happy because it's meatloaf night. And at the last minute, he says, maybe I'll stop off for a drink. Because he sees a crack in reality. And it shakes him. So he says, yeah, I need a shot. And then we see, these are the guys who are behind all of reality. I don't know, they're like godlike imps or something. So I guess like just they're construction workers. Just to keep reality afloat for everyone, they have to construct it. And the foreman's yelling at him, who's responsible for that tear in reality? So as they're building reality, we see little mistakes because they're working fast, these guys. So 42nd Street is reversed. And they had to build this bar scene really quick because they weren't planning on it. He was supposed to just go home. We see them behind the scenes working these little imps. And there's 2 barflies there. And one of them, I guess they didn't have time. He sees in the mirror, she's got no face. Pretty scary image. And the boss, the foreman's like, the next tick that sends an incomplete Atmobot to a hot set is going to suck vacuum. And of course, this guy's like, you got to give us more notice, boss. We're working as fast as we can. This comic seems like it would be really bad to read if you were like on a meth trip or having a bad acid trip. We see the guy's wife at home with the baby. And when she picks up the baby to burp him, his face comes off. Oh, God, that's scary looking. We see the guy walking home. Everyone's constructing the sets as he walks by. And when he gets home, the wife says, the scales have fallen off my eyes. I know the truth now. You're not my husband. You're a filthy simulacrum. I don't think I'm ever going to be able to pronounce that word right. And she shoots him in the chest. And she's like, oh no, he was real. And she blows her, well, thinks she's blowing her brains out, but she's an Autobot, an Atmobot. We see a spring coil and cogs come from her head. David Lloyd's such a good artist. And so these guys are like, oh man, we got to start from scratch. That's pretty zany. Pretty trippy stuff. Number 11. Covered by William Mesner Loebs with a little help from John Peck. I'm not familiar with John Peck, but apparently William Mesner Loebs is. He must be a friend. He helps him with art every now and then. Oh man, this first one. Solo by John Ostrander. And David Lloyd doing the art and colors again. And there's this guy at his father's deathbed. And we see flashbacks. And this father is just a heartless piece of shit. Just a cruel, cruel man. Cruel to his mother. Cruel to the sister. So now we jump up, it's a little while ago. They're adults. The brother and sister are now adults. And she tells him, she's like, you know, I don't see how you still can hang out with our father. You know, he raped me when I was 13 and continued to do so until I ran away. And this guy is just like, I didn't believe it when you first said it, and I don't believe it now. And he also ruins his marriage. The son gets married and he like just kind of ruins it. And she's like, do you think you're going to win his love, his respect? That he'll finally treat you like a son by being such a suck up to him? And then he has this one more flashback when he's a teenager. One of the few times his dad was kind of fatherly. He takes him fishing. And the son says, Dad, do you love me? And the father says, do you love me? It's like, I guess. Do you like me? Sometimes. And the father basically says, but I'm here, right? I keep you fed, I keep you clothed. It's better than I had. My dad wasn't even there. This is a sad comic. And at the last page, he says, "I've been waiting, Dad. All my life I've been waiting for you to die so I could be born. I'm the world's oldest embryo." And he says, "I can't wait any longer." And he snuffs his dad with a pillow. That's the end. That's some intense shit. Here's another one of Del Close's autobiographical tales. Transcribed by John Ostrander and art by Don Simpson. And we see a young Del Close. He's on a movie set. Oh, I think it's the Blob movie that he was in. The Blob sequel. And he's wearing a pentacle. And this guy in the crew is just like asking him questions about it. He's like, "Whoa, a priest with a pentacle." And they're kind of having this philosophical conversation. And Del Close wants to kill these cops. His partner was jailed and brutalized by two pig women, he calls them. Lady cops, basically. And he seriously wants to kill them. So this guy says, "Hey, I'll hook you up with this witch I know. She lives in the swamps. Her name is Big Mama." And he meets Big Mama. And Big Mama basically convinces him, "You don't want them dead. We can just make them miserable." I guess Del Close was a practitioner of magic. And he writes down their names and their badge numbers on a piece of paper, and she kind of reads it. "I see people hating them. I see them hating themselves and taking it out on other folks. I see them in pain, contemptible, unloved, dying young. Is that good enough for you?" And Doko's like, "Yeah, that'll do." He doesn't need to murder them, you know. She says, "Destiny will take your revenge. Don't need your help at all." I wish I could have hung out with Del Close. As they're leaving, Del Close asks the guy from the film crew, he's like, "How old is Big Mama anyway, John?" 20 or so. "Really?" "Really. Been 20 as long as I can remember, too." So she's like got some kind of witchy powers for reals. She can stay young. So here we have a new artist in the lineup, Ty Templeton, drawing the tale Dissecting Mr. Fleming, with the story by our regular duo. And this kid, his father dissects his biology teacher, because the biology teacher traumatized the kid by making him dissect a frog. So the father was just like, "Oh, it's just desserts. I'm going to dissect the biology professor." Pretty gruesome. It seems like the son's the more mature one in the relationship. He's trying to reason with his dad. Like, "You're a murderer now, Dad." And we see a flashback. And the father totally feels justified. He's like, "The bastard deserved this. He had it coming." And the son says, "You know, Dad, some people might say you overreacted." And the son's giving him his options. He's like, We can turn you in and plead insanity. Trouble is. And the father says, trouble is, I'm not insane. Option 2, suicide. Or maybe 3, we could just walk away from this. We could just go home and see what happens. Did you leave any prints? Nope, I wore gloves. So they clean up the crime scene and they go home. And looks like they're going to live happily ever after. Nobody will ever connect them to the murder. Weird story. And here we have number 12. Old David Lloyd cover. And just a little ironic commentary. So this is interesting. We have a sequel story, After the Dead Detective. Remember from a few issues back, John Ostrander solo wrote a story about the dead detective, and here's a sequel. This is Bill Mesner Loaves with an art assist by John A. Peck, that guy from the last issue's cover. We see the dead detective in his office, still dead. And a wrecking ball starts demolishing his building. And look at this. I love this. Just knocks him out of the building. And as he hits the pavement, he's like, I hit the street. He's going to look for his murderer. So he's in a dumpster watching his own building, just half-destroyed building, assuming that sometimes the murderer always returns to the scene of the crime. 3 days later, this guy is running from the cops. He's got a gun, and he ducks down the alley, puts the gun in the dead detective's hand, and he says, hold this for me, buddy. And we hear the police sirens approach. So he's the main suspect now. We see him on trial, and he's convicted because he can't even talk in his own defense. He's dead. So he gets to prison, and he meets Mustafa, who says, I'm the King Khan of the cell block, and you is mine. He's got little hearts. And Dead Detective's like, oh, jeez. So, oh, man, poor Dead Detective. He can't even move. So Mustafa has his way with him, and he's in love. He's just like, that was terrific. No, really. Mustafa's other girlfriends in prison. Well, you know, they're guys, but his bitches, or I don't know what they'd be called, his harem, they're all jealous. And he's all like, he's the one I really love. And it turns into this huge brawl. Huge riot, actually. And then finally it comes time for the dead detective to get the chair. And he's thinking to himself, oh, God, this is the best news ever. Because either the juice will revivify me. Damn it. How do you say that word? Revivify? So I can actually move and talk again. Or it'll kill me real good, and I won't be stuck in this body thinking anymore. It'll kill me for reals. So he's just like, this is great. And then at the last minute, his lawyer runs in. Stop the execution. I've got a letter from the governor. There's a new witness. He's innocent. And the dead detective is like, motherfucker. He's pissed off. And then he's just like, by the way, I met Cindy, and I understand now why you had to keep secret. And he's like, what the hell is he talking about? Who the hell is Cindy? Mustafa says, you wait for me, McCraw. I'll be out in 40 years. You wait. And he just thinks, ah, jeez. So he's back in his office. Even he's questioning. He says, I thought they tore down my office. Who's Cindy? Who was that one-armed man? Did he kill me? If this is my life, how come I don't recognize it? And the one-armed man comes in the office, drops off a wad of money, and walks out the door. And if you notice, his one arm keeps changing sides. It's very silly. And the dead detective's left sitting in his office alone thinking, this all has got to make sense eventually. This next one's called Passing Greed. And this is a solo John Ostrander tale drawn by Don Simpson. And this woman's applying for a position as a school teacher at the Henson School for Gifted Children. The principal and all the other teachers are Muppets. And he's basically telling her that modern students are jaded. You can't just be an educator. You have to be an entertainer. They have no attention span. So they give her a tryout, like an audition. And it's like a TV set. And we see the kids who are just like totally jaded and like, so she starts whistling. She starts playing guitar, starts dancing, puts on this crazy outfit with roller skates. The kids are still unmoved. So the principal fires her. But when he leaves, she says, okay, you pampered poodles, it's back to basics. I'm going to instill fear in you. That's going to make you learn. And she takes the kids hostage. It turns into this huge situation. We see a newsman there. We saw this guy before, the guy with the big long face in one of the Don Simpson stories. The SWAT team, they're trying to talk her down. She's like, I got these kids. I'm not letting them go until they learn something. And she's going to give them a standardized test. She's going to force them to take it. And then it becomes this huge news story. Student test scores rise dramatically. Educators hail teaching breakthrough. It's called fear, says innovator. She's a Woman of the Year for Tempest magazine. And then she becomes a superintendent. And then one day her secretary gets a call. She says, is something wrong? She says, it's the 5th grade at Dewey School, superintendent. They claim they now have nuclear capability. To be continued? Question mark. So here we have a new addition to the lineup. Joe Orlando. I shouldn't say new, because he's twice as old as most of the other artists in this, probably. Joe Orlando, classic EC comic artist, went on to become a huge muckety-muck editor type at DC Comics in the 60s and all throughout, probably up to the 80s. This one's written solo by John Ostrander, and yeah, like I said, Joe Orlando. Excuse me. This one's weird. Titty tat breath. We see this cat eat this mouse. And his owner, who's a big cat lover, he's like, oh, you got titty tat breath. Because cats get that nasty odor in their mouth. His wife is just like, she's not a cat person. And they're not a very good couple. It seems like they argue all the time. So she's sick of this guy prioritizing the cat over her. It seems like he loves the cat more than his own wife. So when he gets home that night, she cooks a lavish dinner. And it turns out she cooked the cat, and he ate it. She says, now you have titty-tat breath. And the husband loses it. And he attacks her, and he kills her. He says, what do I do with the body? So over the next few days, to dispose of her corpse, he eats her every meal. But he gets so sick of it, he's like, I can't eat another bite. I'm going to go out to get something to eat. On the TV, the newswoman says, A lion has escaped from the zoo. As soon as he opens the door, that lion's there. And the lion just chows down on him. Man, Joe Orlando still has a knack for drawing gruesome shit. So the cops come and kill the lion. And then the guys who work for the zoo, who are hauling the tiger body back to the zoo, they're kind of corrupt. They're like, let's sell it to this meat guy, this black market meat guy. We can get a lot of money for selling. He'll probably turn them into hamburgers, ground beef. And then we see the local fast food place. And all these kids are eating burgers from the tiger, which contains the mouse, the cat, the wife, the husband in his belly. There you have it, Wasteland 10 through 12. Another fun, crazy thrill ride. But hope you like these. I hope you're enjoying these Wastelands. I think there's 2 more to go if you're not having a great time. Maybe 3. I think I went to number 18. But I wish there was way more than that. I wish Wasteland was still being published. I just love Del Close, John Ostrander. The way they tell a story is just so unique. Not many writers write the way they do. Okay, next time we'll see some new artists join the crew. Some artists leave. And I do believe, I mentioned this last time, but if you noticed, George Freeman is gone. So the order has already changeth. And I think next issue, 2 more guys leave. I think Mesner Loebs and Lloyd are leaving. So we'll see what happens next time. I can't remember. I can't remember who joins to take their place. But I guess that's it for this time. And I hope to see you here next time at the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.